Dear colleagues and friends, coming Venice another time, I'm very glad to open this 7th International Symposium on Recent Analysis on POPs. And many thanks to Termo Scientific for organizing another time this symposium in my home city. Many thanks to Kyle for invitation and for all the staff. POPs in Venice, to know or not to know? That is the question. It's an omelette question, as you know, about the POPs in Venice lagoon. What do we know? What did we do? Are POPs only an environmental issue? What are the results of past monitoring? Do we need biomonitoring? What is the regional and also the Italian solution? What do we do? What do we know is the lagoon nature. The Venice lagoon is a complex natural ecosystem formed about 6,000 years ago by dynamic balance between materials transported by the rivers and the time of the Adriatic Sea. The total surface of the lagoon is about 550 square kilometers. Is made by highland, wetland, and tidal flats. There are 11 rivers that discharge fresh water every day, about 3 million of cubic meters per day, and there are 3 inlets that exchange water with the sea, about 400 million of cubic meters per day. The human use and abuse of the Venice lagoon. In the Venice lagoon there are 2 big cities, the city of Venice, the city of Chioggia. There is the island of Murano that you know for the glass factory, and there is the big industrial area of Porto Marghera. Porto Marghera in the 1970s was one of the biggest industrial area of Europe with at the maximum capacity. They have less than more 40,000 employers. These activities discharge or are a source of POPs in the environment. And so industrial area, the cities of Venice, Chioggia, the waterways, the depuration plants, the pollution from agriculture, the ship, the big ship, commercial or touristic, and all the boats that go in the lagoon are possible sources of POPs. And we cannot ignore that Venice lagoon provides also to society goods and services. There are fishing and farming areas and a beautiful natural place to live. Environmental contamination of the lagoon. From 1998 and 2002-2003 started several monitoring projects of POPs in the lagoon, in the air, in the water, and in the sediment. The air situation showed that at least 2 sampling stations have a deposition value higher than the guideline of 7 picograms CO2 for square meter for days in terms of toxicity of dioxin and PCBs. So there is a significant consistent contamination of the air in same place. There is a threshold limit for dioxin in waters of 13 femtograms in toxicity per liter. Is like a target. But if you check the medium value in the industrial channel and in the cities channels, you see that you find value higher 20 or 30 times the 13 femtograms. And also in the other less contaminated parts of the lagoon, you can find value around 50 femtograms per liter of water. Sediment. You can see this map with the enrichment factor enrichment factor, as you know, is the ratio between the actual concentration of POP with respect to the POP theoretical background. And you see some enrichment factor higher than 12, especially around the industrial zone and between the city of Venice and the island of Murano. In the industrial zone, on the surface sediment was monitored concentration till 2,500 nanograms TiO2 for kilograms of dry matter of sediment for dioxin concentration. Not only the lagoon is contaminated by POPs, in this map you can see the concentration of chlorinated pesticide in Europe and in the other part of the Italy. A question. In the environment, contamination from POPs, is the only problem? Or are POPs a problem to you? What is the phase of the POPs? From us, come to environment, and coming back to us. We discharge POPs with direct discharge in the water, the past of course. We have the watershed basin, we have exchange with the deposition from atmosphere, and the POPs can accumulate in the sediment, as we see in the map. And from the sediment, the POPs can contaminate biota, especially clams, and the fish from the water, and the fish and clam contaminants can contaminate the man that is on the top of the food chain. We know that POPs are a problem. Why? The word persistent. POPs, degradation is very slow in the environment and also in the organism. POPs are lipophilic, so they can be accumulated and biominificated in the food chain. And I remember that we are the top predators of the food chain. POPs are endocrine disruptor and are often toxic or sometimes cancerogenic substance. What is an endocrine disruptor? I think that this definition of the European Workshop on Endocrine, the 1996, is very clear. An endocrine disruptor is an exogenous substance or a mixture that alters functions of the endocrine system, causing adverse health effects in an intact organism or in its progeny. This is very important, or in a super or population. The stock population of POPs, tomorrow I will sure illustrate very good the stock population, but it's very important that we don't forget the objective of this stock convention. That is, the objective of this convention is to protect human health and the environment from persistent organic pollutants. And in this map that you can have in the website pops.it, you can see that the Stockholm Convention is in force since 17 May 2004, when French ratified the 15 ratified parties. But until today, I'm sure, Italy is the only European country that don't ratify the Stockholm Convention. So, we know, but we don't do. To know and not to do is not yet to know. What we know now? We know that the sediment have a contamination, are contaminated from POPs, and there is an high correlation between clam toxicity and sediment contamination. So, if we contaminate the sediment, in the Venice lagoon was fishing 40,000 tons of clams, half of the Italian production. Sure, the clam harvesting is banned in the contaminated zone, but more than 2,000 euros a day of revenues move to illegal catches, and it's very difficult to stop about 1,000 boats that can illegal fishing. So we don't want to know that we discharge the OPs in the environment, so we are eating them. Fortunately, for the present, at the moment, there is limited the illegal capture of the clams. From the environment to us and back. There is a recent paper, July 2011, that talk about the paradox of the progress. For the medical and human part of this presentation, there is a collaboration with Dr. Gentilini, that is an oncologist, and Dr. Burgio, that is a pediatrician. Different sources of chemicals, from agricultural, industrial waste, petrochemicals, consumer products, different route of exposure, transdermal, inhalation, ingestion for PUPs, transplacental, different metabolic target, from liver, brain, pancreas, adipose tissue, and different effects: obesity, insulin resistance, dyslipidemia, diabetes, hypertension. We know that not only in Italy there is this contamination, not only in Europe, but please don't forget this value. In Europe, the men have medium 500,000 picogram per gram of PCB, total PCB. And the Italian situation from the 1988, the National Toxicology Commission on Dioxin and Furan said that the daily intake was between 3 picograms TEQ per day for kilograms of body to 7. It's very high, but that was data of 1998, and they confirmed that the principal route of exposure is the food. Actually, in my opinion, and in opinion of some colleagues, we don't have enough data on food contamination and also in other sources. The few existing data on human contamination are not sufficient for try to have a balance. So we need at least a biomonitoring. We have some local data. From the 2007 to the 2009, Consorzio INCA promoted new analysis on human serum from men. And we checked 3 groups of population: employer of petrochemical plants that work at least 10 years inside petrochemical plants, people that live in Venice at least from 10 years, generally they was born in Venice, and people that live in a little town about 100 kilometers northeast of Venice, in Veneto region, so people that have a similar style of life. And we compare this data with the only existing data on Venice that was from 1999 regarding high fish consumer of the lagoon. But this data was not complete because there was analyze all the congeners of dioxin and furan, probably due to a cross-contamination inside the laboratory. So you can see that the value, the median value, are, either in the workplace exposure and in the emission, respect the ski resident at least 3 or 4 times. And the Schio is a little, but also industrial city. In Schio there are 2 municipal waste incinerator and also a steel foundry. So it's not only a green part of the Veneto region. And if you give a look at the total PCB concentration in the blood, you can see the median value of 1,000 nanogram fat, and similar between workplace exposure and emission. Higher, 2-3 times higher than ski residents. And if you remember at this point and compare this median value of 1 million of picogram for gram lipids with the 500,000 of the European men, you can see that is twice. So these are 2 evidence of a probably local contamination from dioxin and PCBs. What's about the breast milk? In the 2000, also these are the last data available, in the 2000 a group of mothers in Venice was compared with a group of mothers in Rome. And if you check the sum of dioxin and PCB's dioxin line in Venice are about 30, is the 50% higher than in Rome, that is about 20. But in my opinion, it is very interesting that the level of dioxin in Venice in the 2000 was very similar to the level of dioxin in breast milk in Sweden. And you know that generally during the year there is a decreasing trend for POPs and dioxin concentration in human. Prenatal development is one of the critical phases of our contamination. I remember that this part is making collaboration with the 2, the oncologist and the pediatricist. Paracelso was an alchemist in the 15th century, Swedish alchemist, saying dose make the poison. But we say also the moment when the poison acts is very important. And the time asked how the first 9 months shape the rest of our life. It is true that metal, dioxin, and other lipophilic pollutants accumulated in maternal tissue may pass even many years after their absorption into the blood of each fetus. We need to know better prenatal exposure and its effect. Its LPs demonstrate that the longer term a low dosage of this exposure during the development can, even in absence of malformation, induce perturbation of maturation process of brain system and perturbation of endocrine and immune system. So, this is, in my opinion, the difference between a normal poison and a persistent poison. We don't contaminate only the mother, but the mother contaminated the fetus, that is the second generation, and in the same time, the reproductive cell, the third generation, and an epigenetic change must be observed in the fourth generation. We need to think to the future. And we see, unfortunately, the effects on 0-14 years plus. This table has the annual increase of cancer cases. As you check Italy and Europe, you see the difference. And for all cancer, the annual increase is plus 2% respect Europe, that is 1.1%, and USA is 0.0%. But if you check the period of the first year of life in Italy, the annual increase of cancer cases is 3.2%. And those data, say the two doctors, are very relevant. And we see the effect also in the European health indicators, because if we check the expectation of healthy life at birth for Italian family from 2004 and 2008, everyone can check this trend and check different countries. The top line is the maximum healthy life years in Europe. The bottom one, obviously, is the minimum. The blue one is the medium. And the yellow line is the healthy life years in Italy. And you see that from 71 years in the 2004 at the maximum of the European healthy life, we decreased to 61, 10 years less in 4 years from 2004 and 2008. And this is another evidence that something we need to do. A question for all of them. A newborn cannot choose. We have to choose from him or from her. What is the acceptable level of POPs that we produce in the most important food in the world, the breast milk? This is an old painting, 14th century. You can see Mary that gave blood to his son. Probably Ambrogio Lorenzetti, if was born in the 20th century, he changed and protected Mary from the pollution. To know or not to know. Dioxin, I don't hear, I don't see, I don't speak. This usually happens. A message from the first Italian president to the new ones, not only president but politicians. How is it possible to put into force a law without knowledge? Unfortunately, for many, maybe too many, of those who must solve the problem, nothing is more disgusting than knowledge. Luigi Lauri wrote this between 1948 and 1955. So the answer to the initial question about the POPs in Venice Lagoon. What do we know? We know that there is an environmental contamination from 1998 to 2002, 2003. Many projects of monitoring projects was done. What did we do? Something in the past, little very little difference. Are POPs only an environmental issue? I think no. Do we need also biomonitoring? Yes, due to the few available evidence. Are few? Something say me, but there are only few data on some. Yes, are few data. We was able to pay this data. Other data? Please, show it. What is the regional and also the Italian solution to the obese problem? This is my Hamlet questions. To know or not to know, that is the questions. And that is the solution. Fortunately, in the city of Venice, something is starting, something is moving. And there is this little is only a screening project, but something is starting on POPs, dioxin, PCB, as a chlorobenzene, and probably we analyze also polycarbonate derivatives. And thanks to this man, that probably this evening you will know, is our consigliere for the environment, Gianfranco Bettin, that started this little program. And yes, Luigi Tomatis was for 10 years the director of the International Agency for Research on Cancer, and he wrote, "Hardly the new generation will forgive us for this environmental suicide." And I hope that the new generation will not forgive us for what we could have done and we haven't done. Many thanks to Patrizia Gentilini, an oncologist, and Ernesto Burgio, a pediatrician, that helped me for the human data. And they say me if somebody would like to contact them, they are open to discussion, and I will give you their email. Thank you very much for the attention, and I'm here 2 days, all the 2 days. So, for Liv, this was not a technical talk, but it was only an overview on Venice. I suggest to leave space to the other speaker, and that if you have any question, please give the question directly to me, or otherwise, as you prefer.